Imagine being woken up in the middle of the night by sharp metal teeth digging into your manparts. That was the reality for Victorian men who wore anti-masturbation devices designed to stop any impure thoughts. And if that wasn't enough, women were advised to literally run to the bathroom if their husbands wanted to have sex. But how did they actually do it? I've done the research, and trust me, you won't believe what the Victorians thought was acceptable. Number 1. Mrs. Grundy, the symbol of repression. Every movement needs a mascot, right? In Victorian England, repression had its own mascot, Mrs. Grundy. Though fictional, her influence was pervasive. Mrs. Grundy began as a character in Thomas Morton's 1798 play, Speed the Plough, in which characters worried about her conservative judgment of their choices. Over time, Mrs. Grundy symbolized extreme moral purity. Victorians invoked her name to suppress their desires. People would ask, what would Mrs. Grundy think if something felt too enjoyable or improper? A question aimed at shaming any personal pleasure. Number 2. Male chastity belts. In Victorian times, there was a belief that if men spent less time fixating on their desires, they could transform into more productive and respectable community members. This mindset led to some pretty extreme measures, including anti-masturbation devices. One of the earliest and most shocking was the Jugum penis. This metal ring was meant to be worn at night, and if the wearer had an involuntary reaction, sharp teeth inside would dig into the skin, causing painful jolts that would wake him right up. The theory was that this uncomfortable shock would teach men to rein in their urges instead of acting on them. Number 3. For women, avoidance was key. Intimacy was viewed more as a reproductive duty than a source of pleasure. Women expressing interest risked being labeled lower class or immoral, leading many wives to fend off their husbands' advances. The avoidance techniques were shocking. In her 1894 book Sex Tips for Husbands and Wives, author Ruth Smithers offered curious advice. If a husband tried to kiss his wife on the lips, she should turn her head so the kiss lands on her cheek. If he tried to lift her gown for a kiss, she should quickly pull it down and say she needed to dash to the bathroom. Yes, that's right. Women were actually told to run to the bathroom if their husbands got a little too affectionate. Clearly, nothing kills the mood quite like a sudden call of nature. Number 4. Masturbation was blamed for insanity. Victorian society also viewed self-pleasure as a threat to health, with experts warning it could cause serious physical and mental issues. Doctors and scientists frequently cautioned that excessive self-indulgence could drive someone to insanity, lower their health, or even lead to death. They also believed that certain physical traits, like being too thin, overweight, or pale complexion, were telltale signs that a person might indulge too often. Number 5. No more than twice a week. In her 1894 book, Ruth Smithers also proposed a rather strict guideline for married couples regarding intimacy. She believed husbands and wives should not share intimate moments more than twice a week. She advised that wise brides allow for a maximum of 2 short sexual encounters each week, and, over time, aim to lessen this frequency even further. Ruth even suggested that wives might use feigned illnesses, fatigue, or headaches to help manage these intimate moments. So women were expected to minimize physical affection. If husbands showed eagerness, wives were encouraged to act unwell or pretend to sleep, anything to create distance. Number 6. Having children outside of marriage was a scandal. Back then, giving birth out of wedlock carried immense stigma. Although illegitimate births were uncommon, they brought shame that was hard to bear. Literature reflected this, highlighting tragic figures like Hedy Sorrell and Fanny Robin, who represented women facing unwanted pregnancies, often ending up heartbroken and isolated. Without societal support and the fear of shunning, many unmarried mothers felt trapped, believing their only option was to leave their babies at hospitals or orphanages. In dire situations, some even resorted to infanticide, viewing it as an escape from despair. Number 7. Prostitution terrified society. In earlier centuries, prostitution was seen as a means of income. However, it posed a significant threat to society's moral fabric during the Victorian era. It was not just about selling sex. Prostitutes represented female independence, challenging the male-dominated power dynamics. Unlike the women deemed respectable, prostitutes didn't rely on husbands or fathers for financial backing. They broke free from the traditional family expectations, granting them a degree of freedom that many women could only fantasize about. This independence provoked fear, leading society to demonize them, labeling them as fallen women. Number 8. Avoid mustard if you didn't want to get turned on. Victorian men felt pressured when aroused, exacerbated by Swiss neurologist Tissot's claim that self-pleasure could lead to madness, heightening fears of desire. Since enjoying pleasure was stigmatized, men were advised to avoid foods stimulating the senses, including mustard, pepper, rich gravies, beer, wine, cider, and cigarettes, to manage these feelings. The belief was that avoiding these substances would help them maintain self-control and avoid moral pitfalls. Number 9. Women were either saints or sinners. No in between. Women's sexuality was rigidly defined back in the olden days. Men were viewed as driven by desire, while women were expected to embody purity and modesty. This led to two stereotypes: the virtuous, detached woman, seen as a moral beacon, and the immoral woman, deemed shameful and corrupt. If a woman deviated from chastity, society labeled her as ruined. There was no space for complexity. She was either a virtuous angel or a disgrace. Number 10. Dancing after the deed. In the 1800s, medical advice lacked the precision we know today. Some experts proposed bizarre theories about reproduction. For example, French physiologist Eugene Beclard suggested women could avoid pregnancy by dancing after intercourse or even hopping on a horse the next day. Though absurd, Beclard's ideas continued. He claimed pregnancy couldn't result from rape and that a couple's personalities influenced conception. It's shocking how these theories clash with modern understanding. Number 11. Police could arrest prostitutes for having STDs. Despite harsh Victorian judgments on prostitutes, men still sought them out. Ignorance of safe practices allowed STIs to spread rapidly, especially among soldiers. In response, the British government enacted the Contagious Diseases Acts in 1864. These laws gave police the power to arrest any woman they suspected of being a prostitute, leading to invasive medical exams that felt more like an invasion of privacy than a protective measure. If a woman tested positive for an STI, she could be sent to a locked hospital, where she might find herself detained for up to 9 months. The sad truth is that these laws aimed to protect men from disease, not the women themselves. Victorian morality was hypocritical, unfairly burdening women. Number 12. Men had a free pass to be promiscuous. By the late 19th century, society believed men had strong sexual urges. Making infidelity and affairs seem more socially acceptable, it was considered in their nature. But not everyone bought into this double standard. Frustrated by the hypocrisy, many women joined the social purity movement, which aimed to challenge the privileges that men enjoyed. However, instead of advocating for equal rights in relationships, this movement took a more radical approach. It denounced all forms of sexual activity, no matter who engaged in them. The leaders of this initiative became known as the New Puritans, fiercely committed to enforcing strict moral guidelines for all. Number 13. Being gay was a crime. Initially, formal penalties for homosexuality were minimal, confined to public indecency laws. However, by the late 19th century, as same-sex relationships gained visibility, society reacted harshly. In 1885, a new law was introduced that criminalized all homosexual relationships, even those kept completely private. This had dire consequences for many, with one of the most notable cases being that of Oscar Wilde, who faced arrest and imprisonment in 1895, just 11 years after this law was enacted. Number 14. If you didn't finish together, it was a failure. The Victorians had some pretty specific, and let's be honest, unrealistic, expectations regarding intimacy. One peculiar belief was that a couple's intimate experience was deemed successful only if both partners climaxed at the same moment. Women were encouraged to turn down their husbands if they thought simultaneous satisfaction wasn't possible. This idea lingered well into the 20th century, appearing in relationship advice books like The Hygiene of Marriage. Published in 1923, these books put a lot of pressure on couples to achieve this so-called perfect synchronization in their love lives. Number 15. Teaching kids about their bodies was encouraged. but not for girls. Contrary to common belief, many Victorian experts encouraged parents to educate their children about their bodies. One key reason was to prepare girls for their first period, preventing unnecessary panic when it arrived. However, only boys received detailed reproductive information, leaving girls in the dark until their wedding night. This often resulted in awkwardness when they learned how things truly work. Parents were also encouraged to ensure their children stayed busy and active throughout the day to prevent them from exploring themselves. If kids were tired by bedtime, they wouldn't have energy for inappropriate activities under the covers. Did any of these beliefs surprise you? Do you think any of these outdated ideas still influence our society today? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.